I am the Special Projects Intern at the LGBTQ Campus Resource Center. And I am a fourth-year undergrad as well.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Liz Lopez, and I use she, her, ella pronouns. And I am the current program coordinator within the CRC. So excited to be here with you all.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Minnie Esquivel Gopar, and I am the administrative coordinator here at the LGBTQ Campus Resource Center. And my pronouns are she, her, hers, or they, them, theirs. And I'm really excited to be here with y'all today to celebrate our 25 years.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Thank you to our pro staff. We also have some student interns who will be joining us throughout, and some alumni. So we'll definitely get to some more intros later as well. My name is Andy. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the current director of the UCLA LGBTQ Campus Resource Center. I'm really honored to serve as the current director of the center and to work alongside such incredible students and professional staff. It's an incredible honor to work with the UCLA student, staff, alumni, and faculty. And I'm humbled and excited, a little bit nervous that there are so many incredible people gathered here for today's program. We have a very exciting program for you. And before we formally begin, I just want to say a few words for the folks who are in this space. So I want to acknowledge and thank Micah Baumgartner, Arlene Reynolds, and Megan Vandertorn, our former assistant director, for their work to design and implement this incredible program, and a few more that we have in store this year. Arlene, Micah, before they graduated, and Megan, before they left us for another unnamed institution, spent over a year and with great intention and care to gather us today for this significant milestone. So I truly thank them. I'm so excited to finally see this through. I also want to thank you for being here. We have an incredible cross-section of community members in this space, including current and former students, staff, volunteers, interns, faculty, graduate and undergraduate students, community members, scholars, senior leaders. Today, we will share some of our center's rich history with you. Truth be told, it's impossible to highlight it all, in part because we only have so much time and Zoom fatigue is a thing. But also, while a lot of this work requires us to be out and proud and bold and loud, this work also happens in quiet and humble ways. Forwarded emails and folded letters to administrators with concerns and complaints, hushed conversations in hallways under quieted words. Not everyone can be out, and not everyone that shows up to do this work has their story memorialized, including those who are often the loudest and boldest. We know much of LGBTQ history only highlights and centers white, cisgender gay stories, if any queer at all. And that's simply not the only story. So in preparation for this year, Micah did a lot of digging the support of some incredible alumni to begin reclaiming our stories and reclaiming our pride by writing down UCLA's queer and trans history, uplifting the stories of queer, trans, Black, Indigenous people of color, the stories of transgender and non-binary folks, alumni with disabilities, bisexual people, lesbian her stories, community members who are asexual and aromantic. So those who came before us are not rendered invisible. Although a lot was pulled together, there's still so much we don't know and a lot that's missing. But we will share with you some of our history today. And in this upcoming year, we are grateful for the incredible stories that we have found and thankful for the many who are in this space who paved the way and those who helped us gather these stories. Today, we join together to honor, celebrate, and build upon the history and legacy of our center's 25 years and UCLA's leaders and activists to move us towards actualizing the vision of our center, a UCLA community that is equitable and affirming of all identities, where people of all genders and sexual and romantic orientations are celebrated, respected, and empowered. To support this effort, last year, our professional and student staff re-articulated our mission, vision, values, which I'll share more about later on. It is our hope and our intention to guide the center's next 25 years in the direction of this vision and our values. This work requires that we center students' many lived identities and lived experiences, including, but not limited to, their race, ethnicity, immigration status, ability, disability, religion, and class. This work calls us to acknowledge our presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino and Tongva peoples and the history of settler colonialism and violence, which led to some of us being here. This work drives us to unapologetically act in solidarity with the movement for Black lives, to hold steadfast in our support of undocumented and international students and scholars, and amplify and center the experiences of Black, Indigenous, queer, and trans people of color in our work towards greater social and racial justice. Furthermore, it empowers us to ensure accessibility is uplifted in our pursuit of a community which honors all of its members, including those of us who are disabled and or neurodivergent. We must continue to foster beautiful spaces of joy, healing, and loving community, while also interrupting and dismantling the dynamics of white supremacy, anti-Blackness, homo, bi, transphobia, racism, sexism, and oppression that is built into the very fabric of our lives. Today, we hope that you will join with us in this 25th year to support our vision for the future, for the world, and for UCLA. And it will take each and every one of us to continue to build upon our rich history and reclaim our pride. We look forward to actualizing our loving and liberatory future with you. Thank you for being here, and we really hope you enjoy the program.
Thank you so much, Andy. I would like to next move into community agreements to guide our space today.
Wow, just wow. Thank you, Andy, for those beautiful remarks. In efforts to practice what we shared and in moving our community towards creating safe spaces for everyone, I would like to welcome you all to receive these community agreements I'm about to share with you all. The first one is take space, make space. Be aware of the space you're taking up and allow others to take more. Additionally, challenge yourself to take more if you wish. This includes ensuring you're speaking from your own experience and not generalizing to others. Secondly, use inclusive and compassionate language. No, racist, transphobic, homophobic, or otherwise intentionally hateful and harmful language will not be tolerated in this space or any of our spaces. Third, don't assume identities and pronouns. Ask if you're not sure, and respect and use the names, pronouns, and identities you've been presented with. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Liz. I'd now like to do a land acknowledgement.
Hello, everyone. I would like to respectfully ask y'all to join me in acknowledging and honoring the Taraktam, or Indigenous peoples of California, and the Gabrielino Tongva peoples of the Los Angeles area. It's very important to be cognizant that our campus resides on the homeland of the Taraktom, who were historically dispossessed of their ancestral land. So I will now read the acknowledgement, and I ask that we take a 3-second moment of silence to show thanks and appreciation at its completion. So as we begin today's virtual lounge, we would like to first acknowledge that the land that our physical space resides. A land acknowledgement is a formal statement that recognizes and respects Indigenous peoples as traditional stewards of this land and the enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous peoples and their traditional territories. To recognize the land is an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those whose territory we reside, and a way of honoring the Indigenous people who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. It is important to understand the long-standing history that has brought us to reside or inhabit the land, and to seek to understand our place within that history. Land acknowledgements do not exist in a past tense or historical context. Colonialism is a current, ongoing process, and we need to build our mindfulness of our present participation. As part of UCLA, a land-grant institution, the LGBTQ Campus Resource Center acknowledges the Tongva and Serrano peoples as the traditional land caretakers of this land. We pay our respects to the ancestors, and elders, relatives, and relations, past, present, and emerging. Thank you so much for taking this moment. And I will hand it back off to Arlene.
Thank you so much, Minnie. I now would like to move over to a presentation by Andy.
Again, everyone, as I mentioned earlier during the welcome remarks, we just wanted to share with you all the rearticulated mission, vision, values that our professional and student intern team rearticulated this past year. And so I will read them aloud. Our new mission: the UCLA lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ Campus Resource Center supports students and employees of all genders and sexual and romantic orientations through community building events, resources, counseling, outreach, training, consultation, and advocacy. We approach our work through holistic, intersectional, and social justice frameworks that honor and empower individuals at their many identities and lived experiences, including but not limited to race, ethnicity, immigration status, ability, religion, and class. Our vision: we envision a UCLA community that is equitable and affirming of all identities, where people of all genders and sexual and romantic orientations feel celebrated, respected, and empowered. And finally, our new values: accessibility, community and accountability, education, equity and advocacy, intersectionality, social and racial justice, and wellness.
Thank you so much. Our mission, vision, and values are a major part of who we are as a center and how we approach our work. As some of you may have noticed, at the beginning of the presentation, there was a special commemorative graphic, which you can see behind some of us. But I should not be the one to present about that. I actually think that that should go to Isa Moreno, our graphic designer, who will take over.
Hello, everyone. My name is Isa Moreno, graphic design intern for the LGBTQ Campus Resource Center. I just want to thank Arlene and Andy for asking me to be a part of this project. When they came to me to ask if I would help envision, create, and rebrand a signature icon to celebrate over 25 years of service from the UCLA LGBTQ CRC. I was very nervous. A queer and trans kid like me from a small town in Northern California would have never imagined designing something so important for the queer community in Los Angeles. When Arlene and I started planning for the 25th birthday signature release, it was a bit difficult when we met in the summer. We felt more than ever our mission was to represent the history that the center has brought forth here, but also honor the people who may have historically been pushed to the outside of the margins and erased, including our Black, Indigenous, trans, and queer siblings who attend UCLA and who have contributed to Los Angeles and its history and community as a whole. For this reason, our marketing and communications team felt it important to reimagine what it has historically meant to be queer and trans, while also finding home in the uncertainty of our futures as marginalized people. This year, we decided to honor the center with the symbol of infinite possibilities. The infinite triangles you see behind us, and as well as in the presentation, pay homage to the beginnings of the gay and lesbian movement, as well as the persecution of LGBTQ plus people during tragedies such as the Holocaust, which mark with the mark of the pink triangle. Similarly, the infinite triangles honor and are inspired by Indigenous epistemology and pedagogy from this continent that we're on, where time, disrupting this notion that time is linear and chronological, And I know it's very vague for me to say that we're honoring Indigenous people from this continent. If you would like to know more about this pedagogy, feel free to DM me, message me if you would like to know more about this knowledge from the rightful creators. But more so in these triangles, we're trying to represent that time is cyclical and reappearing. We have to understand that our histories and our ancestors are always with us today, despite the passage of time. Similarly, this year, we added the Q to our name. Together, these triangles and the addition of queer emphasizes the true importance of reclaiming slurs that have historically been thrown at us by our oppressors in order to achieve true queer and trans liberation in our world, right? This signature of two infinity triangles in unison, locked together, illustrate the importance of the infinite resilience of our queer and trans community. To put it best, these triangles are, and these colorful gradients that you see in our backgrounds are fluid and never ending. They're colorful, they're loud, they're cute, hey, just as we are. As the designer of this project, I hope that we can take a piece of what we're celebrating right now with us for the rest of the year. Queer and trans people are the past, we're the present, we're the future, we are forever. And Arlene and the Marcom team and I have created, or I've contributed, but most importantly, Arlene and the Marcom team have created an amazing event, and I couldn't be more honored to share space with you all of you today. So thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to celebrate the rest of the hour and a half that we have here. Thank you so much.
Let me take a minute to compose myself. I'm just getting emotional, it's fine. So as Andy said previously, our histories are incomplete. The narratives most appealing to the power structures that be are those that are most uplifted. However, we've done our best to compile as much as possible. That being said, there's quite a bit of history to be talked about. It doesn't need to be said that the queer and trans students at UCLA existed and were working to create their own space long before the center. We've compiled some select timeline events thanks to the assistance of Kaya Foster from Lambda Alumni and Dr. Al Aben. This is part of a larger timeline project that we're going to be launching in the winter. Early UCLA history centers a lot on health-related work being done at UCLA. In 1950, Dr. Elmer Belt performed gender-affirming surgeries, some of the first in the US. A few years later, psychologist Evelyn Hooker began publicly presenting research which is often considered to be the basis for the depathologization of homosexuality. In 1962, the UCLA Department of Psychology established the first gender identity clinic in the US. Though 1969 is definitely a historic year in its own right, in that year, a UCLA chapter of the Gay Liberation Front began, cementing itself as the first openly gay student organization. A few years later, GLF would rebrand to Gay Student Union and seeks to be able to receive university funding. GSU will later rename itself the Gay and Lesbian Alliance, or GALA, and finally, Queer Alliance as we know it today. As we know, LGBTQ people are not a monolith. Folks need to create their own affirming spaces. And so in 1973, Jan Field founded the Lesbian Sisterhood, initially called the Gay Sisterhood, which became an important hub for feminist organizing at UCLA, staging demonstrations and hosting the West Coast Lesbian Conference with over 1,500 attendees. The 70s were busy. In 1974, GSU hosted the first ever Gay Awareness Week, and in 79, 10% was founded. 10% is now known on campus as Outright. Jumping ahead almost 10 years, and UCLA in 1988 approved both a gay fraternity, Delta Lambda Phi, and a lesbian sorority, Lambda Delta Lambda, founded by Allison Adler, Marcy Kay, and Chrissy Burke. 1989 was a big year too. In the same week, the Lambda Alumni Network was officially recognized, and the Gay and Lesbian Faculty and Staff Network had their first meeting at the home of Rayleigh Seporin. 1 year later, the network was officially approved by Chancellor Charles E. Young, and the next year, Lambda would be able to award the first of its scholarships. Around the time that serious talks of a community center at UCLA started to swirl, Stephen Gonzalez, becomes the first openly gay person to be successfully elected to USAC. And in 1994, 1 year before the center would open, student Voltaire Tinana organized the first National Coming Out Week at UCLA. Now, creating the center was definitely not an easy process, because why would it be? A proposal for a center for gay and lesbian students was written by alumni Kurt Shepard in 1991, which was informed by an assessment launched by Student Services the previous year, an assessment which didn't actually include queer students and their needs at first. The proposal, which was written in collaboration with the Gay and Lesbian Staff and Faculty Network, was returned by UCLA administration with a discussion about the limitations of the university's budget. The next year, yet another proposal was submitted by Shepard, taking into account the university's supposed criticisms. The proposal was approved 2 years later, and the UCLA Lesbian, Gay, and Bisexual Student Resource Center opened in 1995 with grad student Charles Occult as its director. The center has had 3 locations over the years, 3 homes. We've welcomed ourselves home multiple times. The first was our tiny closet space in the basement of Haynes Hall, a literal closet. I am not joking. In 1997, we got to move into 220 Kinsey Hall. Kinsey Hall is now known on campus as Kaplan Hall, by the way. This space vastly increased our visibility on campus and our square footage. Finally, in 2003, the center was able to move into our current space. We are not only on the ground floor of the Student Activity Center in the heart of campus, but our external door opens right into Bruin Plaza. Our iconic rainbow flag out front makes sure we can always be found by those who need us. We were without a doubt out of the closet. Suffice to say, we wouldn't be anywhere without our staff. We are fortunate enough to have been operating with 4 professional staff for the past few years, which is a rarity among similar centers at other universities. As I mentioned, the first director of the CRC was Charles Occult. He operated the center solely for 2 years, at which point the director became Dr. Ronnie Sanlow, who was able to secure funding to hire an assistant director, graduate Stephen later. Over the years, the team has shifted and expanded, as did all of the resources and programs offered by the center. We have also recognized here some of the queer identified counselors who have provided services through the center over the years. It has not been uncommon for counselors in residence or CAPS counselors to hold interim or staff positions in the center. Such people include interim directors Dr. Saromi Kim and UCLA alum Adeline Lowe. I just want to take a few moments to appreciate all of the staff of the center over the years, and I encourage y'all to show your appreciation in the chat. Now, not to be biased, but I think that the student interns and volunteers are an invaluable part of the center. Our first record of students being employed at the center is 2001, and we've done our best to compile as many names as possible. However, we know that there's no way that we could ever record all of the names of anyone who's ever assisted the center in a project or worked with us. We are a center for students first and foremost. The labor of countless students is what allows us to be so developed as a center in the ways that we are. Please also take some time to appreciate the students both listed and not listed here. It's difficult to present about our major programs over the years because we change them. We always want to be responsive to the needs and wants of our community members. However, we do have some mainstays that we'd like to highlight today. First is Cookies and Queers. As part of True Brew and Welcome, the center offers Cookies and Queers every year on the first day of classes. It was a significant accomplishment to get this event included in the campus-wide program series that is True Brew and Welcome. Beginning in 2012, the program offered iconic Diddy Reese cookies, time to connect with fellow LGBTQ Bruins, and the chance to learn about a wide variety of LGBTQ student organizations at UCLA. We're so highly attended that now we take over most of the basement of the Student Activities Center for the event. And I think that's amazing. Next is the Student Leadership Retreat. At the start of winter quarter in 2017, the center began offering a student leadership retreat. The retreat has been successfully executed year after year, thanks to the tireless efforts of former Assistant Director Megan Vandertoorn. During this 3-day weekend, students engage in developmental activities and collaborate on ways to improve UCLA for queer and trans students. Plus there's snow, which I can attest is often the real highlight of the retreat. Next is Take a Drag. Our annual drag show was also started in 2017 after being proposed and workshopped by former intern Brian Astorga and former program coordinator Kevin Medina. Offered in the spring quarter, this highly anticipated event features both professional and amateur performers in a vibrant celebration of life and resistance against those pesky gender norms, because who needs them? Finally, there's no way we couldn't go without mentioning Lavender Graduation. We've been lucky enough to have been offering this program since 1998, thanks to our recruitment of its founder, Dr. Ronnie Sandlow. The event celebrates queer and trans graduating students, providing an affirming place to celebrate their achievement with their loved ones. The first LavGrad took place in Northwest Auditorium, which is also the first location of the drag show. There were a total of 25 graduates listed in the program. Today, LavGrad takes place every year in Corn Convocation Hall at UCLA Anderson. We had the privilege of recently recognizing over 70 graduates through the ceremony. Now we have major programs, big things that take months and months of planning, but we also have been able to provide numerous weekly programs, casual community spaces that allow folks to find community amongst the stress of the quarters. We were able to trace as far back as 2006, where the center facilitated multiple groups in the evenings, including ones for women, another for trans folks, as well as an HIV positive support group. The center also offered weekly movie nights on Thursday afternoons and began a regular brunch program. Goodness knows gays love to brunch. In later years, regular offerings became a little more varied, introducing some topic-based spaces. Of course, a favorite during the summer was Sundays on Tuesdays, which provided staff and faculty a social space during the summers. Over years, many of our programs evolved, and we even were able to offer virtual chat spaces. We were more prepared for a pandemic than we thought. Too soon? Maybe a little bit. In recent years, the center caught up with the times and added a closed space for queer and trans, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Grad lunches also became grad coffee hours, which I'm guessing better served their needs. Lots of coffee. These are the weekly programs now offered by the center. Our Cutie BIPOC space is led by our Cutie BIPOC coordinator intern, Lazuli. Our grad co-working space is led by Sarai Jaramillo. No longer just a weekly movie night, Thursdays are now for Queer Fandom Fanatics, which were previously led by Megan Vandertoorn and are now led by me. We also offer an affinity space for our community members on the asexual and aromantic spectrums, facilitated by our program coordinator, Liz Lopez. Now it's time for us to really brag about ourselves. The CRC staff also worked hard behind the scenes to better the campus community, collaborating with student leaders, staff, faculty, and community members. In 2004, we acquired the David Bonet Cyber Center, and in 2006, founded the Rayleigh Corn Library. We co-founded the first multi-campus T-Camp conference in 2012 and also established the Trans Task Force on campus. In 2004, the first Pride Admit Weekend was assisted by the center, though the program now runs independently of the center. A major milestone, in 2015, the center helped establish the Bruin Card Preferred Name process and later accomplished the feat of getting the office to remove legal names from cards in that process, as well as from CCLE. Prior to the marriage equality rulings in the US, the center staff advocated for married student housing to be renamed as family housing. We started offering drop-in CAPS counseling with queer-identified CAPS counselors in 2012, and have also been able to offer case management services, financial wellness peers, and are part of the economic crisis response team through meal voucher programs. All gender restroom accessibility was increased thanks to the creation of a map by our ESM scholars and some members of our intern team whose names are listed here, as well as advocating to increase access to these all gender restrooms on the Hill. Through ally trainings, we've been able to train an estimated 10,000 plus campus community members. And in 2019, we launched our Student Advocacy Committee to bring students into the process associated with bettering our campus community. In 2018, then intern Vanessa Wari began launching the Cutie BIPOC Student Experience Assessment Project, later assisted by intern Smriti Nagarajan. The center started with a research project, and in quite the full circle moment, the information from this research project will be instrumental in defining the next 25 years for the LGBTQ CRC. Now, UCLA has an unfathomable number of LGBTQ alumni who have gone on to do amazing work. Today, we'd like to highlight three. These three alumni were chosen by our student staff team because as a group, they represent our newly reimagined values as a center. We are a center that values accessibility, community and accountability, education, equity and advocacy, intersectionality, social and racial justice, and wellness, which is why we've chosen today to highlight the work of Patrice Cullors, Dr. Mimi Huang, and Mia Yamamoto. Patrice Cullors is an organizer, artist, and co-founder of numerous organizations and coalitions, including Black Lives Matter, Reform LA Jails, and Justice LA. Dr. Mimi Huang is a psychologist, educator, activist, and co-founder of organizations such as the LA Bi Task Force and AMBI, also serving on the White House Bisexual Community Roundtable. Mia Yamamoto is a criminal defense attorney and civil rights activist. During her time at UCLA, she co-founded the Asian Pacific Islander Law Student Association. Over the summer, we reached out to our community and sourced video messages. These were edited together by UCLA MFA program student Emery Johnson and features music from UCLA alum Cross. We'd like to share that completed video with you now.
Hi!
Hello!
What's up, Bruins?
Hey, I just want to wish the UCLA LGBT.
Once again, I'd like to thank UCLA MFA program student Emery Johnson and UCLA Cross for providing such amazing media today. Thank you so much. We'd now like to move into our panel featuring some current and former student leaders, and we'll get that set up now. Hello, lovely panelists. It's so lovely to be here with you all. How are you all doing?
Wonderful.
So good. Recovering a little bit from the tears after that video.
That was so like, my heart is so full watching like the history and the video.
Well, I would love to just jump right into asking y'all some questions. As a reminder, it's helpful for folks if before you start speaking, introduce yourself with your name, you know, as in Arlene speaking. I'm trying to get better at it. So first we can do a round of introductions. With your name, your pronouns, what year you graduated from UCLA, and your campus involvements, and also any off-campus work that you've done, as well as anything else you'd like to mention.
Do we just jump in? Okay. Hi, I'm Robert Gamboa. I use he, him, his pronouns. Thank you so much for having me. And wow, putting all that information together was awe-inspiring. So congratulations and happy birthday. So I graduated in 2019, just last year, with my master's in public policy from the Luskin School of Public Affairs. And I was, as far as student involvement, I was on the UCLA LGBT, now I can't remember the full name of it. It's only been a year. The campus-wide advisory board. Yes, Committee on LGBTQ Affairs. Thank you, Andy. As well as I was the LGBT advisor for the Graduate Student Association. And then outside of UCLA, I sit on the Lesbian and Gay Advisory Board for the City of West Hollywood, and I currently work at the Los Angeles LGBT Center in the Public Policy Department.
Hi everyone, my name is Sohini. I use she, her pronouns. I can go next. And so I'm the class of 2021, but I'll actually be graduating this December, which is really exciting and kind of bittersweet because my time at the center as an intern will be coming to an end. So it's really, really special to me that I got to be an intern and part of the center while this is happening. Some of the things that I'm involved with are, so I've been working as an outreach intern at the center for about a year and a half now. I was an outreach volunteer before that. I also help out with the peer allyship trainings, and I'm also on the advocacy committee as well. And something that I'm really passionate about at the center is facilitating bi, pan, fluid community spaces. That's been really important to me. And we're actually having one next Tuesday on the 20th, 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific, little plug. And other things that I work on, I'm also a research assistant at the Williams Institute. So I've worked on some various LGBTQ public health and public policy research assignments as well, which has been really interesting as well. And I just want to thank the center for really guiding my direction for my future career. I would really love to work on LGBTQ healthcare issues in the future as a hopeful physician one day. So yeah, just want to welcome everybody and thank you so much for being here.
Hey everyone, my name is Kai. I use they, he, and Z pronouns. I'm the other outreach intern for the center, and I'm also a co-lead for the advocacy committee at the center. I'm a director of Transgender UCLA Pride, or TransUp for short, our trans student org for trans and non-binary students, and an activism coordinator for Lavender Health Alliance, the pre-health LGBTQ student org for undergraduates. And I'm also an undergraduate representative for the trans wellness team.
Hi everyone, this is Jack speaking. I use they, them, or he, him, his pronouns. I graduated from UCLA about 2 years ago, so class of 2018. I guess I still am an international student, but I was an international student at UCLA and a transfer student. Let me think. I guess I helped out with the center name change project with Kevin and Emmanuel. And I was a student leader for the retreat 1 year after I participated the first year. At my time at UCLA, I was also on the inaugural CAPS Student Advisory Board. And And I also was a great peer coach, and most of my coachees were LGBTQ identified. So yeah, that's me. And yeah, I mean, right now I'm in graduate school and doing social work and in Houston, Texas. So that's exciting.
Hey, everyone. My name's Yuho. I use he, him pronouns. I am a little more alumni. I graduated in 2015, and my claim to fame or my connection with the LGBT CRC is that I work closely with a lot of the staff to start the Pride at Weekend, as well as the Gender Gap Clothing Drive while I was a student there. Yeah, so very happy to be here and acknowledging everyone who's an attendee. It's very weird not seeing people's faces.
Thank you all so much. So the first question I would like to ask is, how do you feel that your UCLA experience informed your work on or off campus?
I feel like for me, like as a trans student on campus, a lot of my advocacy for trans work on campus has been really driven by my personal experience. So, and also just like what I hear through community, through friends. So for example, something I noticed early on was that every time I got an appointment reminder for like ASH and CAPS, it would say my legal name in all caps. And then, you know, when I became the undergraduate representative for the trans wellness team, I brought it up, and they brought it up to IT, and they changed it within like a month or two. So that was just like a really easy, accessible change. And then some other changes that I've kind of helped advocate for include like removal of legal names from CCLE and from brewing cards. And this was a very long process. So with Andy, I brought it up, and this was something that I know other people in the past had been advocating for. So like previous directors and previous students. But I'm really glad that during my time here at UCLA, these changes have finally been made, so future trans students can not have to worry about that. Because that's something that when I first came here, I was like constantly worried about. And so from that personal experience, it really informed the work that I wanted to do.
I can go next. I think as a transfer student, I remember it was really funny because I remember the first few people that I met at UCLA was actually, I was subleasing an apartment in Westwood, and I was living, I think, with the former director of Queer Alliance, Ellie, and so they were telling me about like, oh, like here's all these queer stuff that's like you could get involved in once you're like fully transferred into. And they had a really like beautiful apartment space that they would invite in queer and trans students in all the time. And I remember just being there, and I was so wide-eyed, right? I was like, oh my God, I just got into UCLA, like this is really exciting. But then I remember seeing like so many queer and trans students coming in, and so many barriers that they faced, you know, navigating the school. And not just that, but also like the toll it took on their mental health. I actually made a few friends that in that summer, and then the following year they dropped out from school because of how, you know, like how much stress, how much anxiety, and all of their basically the mental health stuff took over, and they couldn't cope with it anymore in the institution. So that kind of, you know, like when I got in, that was a lot of what I was thinking about. And it was really funny because at that time was when like I started thinking about maybe I am non-binary, but I, you know, like I was like, oh, I don't know what that means. I just like, I see other people. But yeah, so that was a big like kind of like reckoning, right? Like, so I was dealing with my own stuff, like, and I knew that like, oh my gosh, like this is really, really, really tough. And I understand why a lot of students, like on top of like the rigorous academic course load, struggle so much, because there's a lot to deal with. And thankfully there was the center, but you know, the center can't really be the one place where all the students like go to just like cast off the institutional like weight of like every single other aspect of UCLA. So that's kind of where when I got there, I started looking into a lot of mental health initiatives, right? I got into Active Minds. I applied for the Student Advisory Board at CAPS. I became a great peer coach. And I actually entered as a communication studies major, so I wanted to do marketing, but then now I'm in graduate school for social work. So I'm studying clinical mental health now. So that's how it informed my work.
Sohini speaking. Hi, I can go next. I think for me, as amazing as my UCLA experience has been, I think I've had a lot of experiences feeling kind of in between like cultures or spaces, you know, being Indian and a kid of immigrants and also being American, that's like a pretty standard feeling, I would say. And then also being bi and being queer and kind of having to navigate, you know, that like in between space that's often, you know, I think relevant for a lot of bi people, really informed why I wanted to start facilitating these BIPAN fluid community spaces. And so I've done a few so far, and it's been really awesome. We've had some more casual spaces, which have been really fun. It's always really good to just kind of be in community and be casual and just hang out with folks. But we've also done more intentional discussion space where we really tried to hone in on our experiences with internalized biphobia and also external biphobia, as well as, you know, how we see bi erasure and, you know, like, I guess, like pan erasure and non-monosexual, like sexuality erasure come up in queer spaces. And we really kind of delved deep into that. And that was something that was really important to me because it sort of validated a lot of the things that I had experienced and was feeling. And it was good to not feel alone. And yeah, that's like one of the big things I would say. I'd also mention too, I think when I came in to the center my sophomore year and I started volunteering, and Arlene and Kai were like my leaders back then. They're awesome. I totally did not know enough about my community. And I think since then I've really had an opportunity to learn about, you know, my community's history and just better ways to show up for and be an ally for other marginalized groups, both within community and without. And the peer allyship trainings have really helped with that. Now I facilitate those as well. And so, yeah, I think it's a testament to how, you know, the center creates this culture of trying to always foster education and warmth and welcoming. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see what we do in the next 25 years. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Those were some great answers. Oh, Arlene speaking, my fault. I'd like to move on to the next question, just so we can squeeze a couple more in before we switch over to the second part of our space. So the next question I wanted to ask is, what has the center meant to you, both in your time at UCLA and thinking about it now as we celebrate 25 years?
I can jump in. This is Robert speaking. So, and also kind of tying in a little bit of the last question. As an older person, and I don't want to say I'm too old, I really appreciated working with the CRC on so many different levels. There are, you know, and if you look at the age differences, there's a lot of people that refuse to use the word queer, and there's a lot of younger people who don't want to identify as gay, lesbian, or bisexual, right? So they have, and I really got to see that in application, the CRC, and I think that was one of the things that really helped me a lot in doing a lot of the advocacy work and policy work that I do, is how to be able to be super inclusive with different identities, right? I like one of the community rules that said, don't assume anyone's identity, right? I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know how you identify. And the center was very intentional in how to create safe spaces for everyone to feel comfortable to identify as they wish. And I've actually been able to take some of that into some of the policy work that I do at the local, state, and federal level. Because I can tell you it's really not there, right? People don't know when we're, trying to develop these policies. I'm not saying nerd. These conversations are difficult to have. And because of my work there at the CRC and at UCLA, and understanding where different people are coming from, I think it's been really helpful in that. So that's what was really helpful for me with the CRC.
Hey, this is Yuho. I will share a little bit. The center means quite a lot to me. That was when I first ugly cried and came out. Don't tell me I'm the only one, but if it is, then I'll wear it proudly. But also, I think the center just has really good-hearted people, from student staff to professional student affairs professionals. They're really there to help you get to where you want to be. Just drawing on like specific to my experience with the creation of the Pride That Weekend, there were a lot of things that I learned along the way that I didn't realize was very important until I went out of the university environment. For example, like the process of articulating why having a queer specific event is important, quantifying like the results of what this can do for students. Those things actually translate really well into the real world, where now I'm having conversations about why diversity and inclusion is important. So for anyone who's still in school, lean on those people around you. Everyone that you saw in the video is an advocate for you, even if you may not think that's the case, and that they represent the institution. I can assure you they are definitely on your side in terms of getting things going or getting things changed.
I guess I just want to add, like, as a current student at the center, like it's, I've kind of been involved since my first week. I started volunteering at the center my first week here at UCLA. So my entire 4 years here is going to be very defined by my experience with the center, but it's been a place where I felt safer and more comfortable being visibly queer and trans student on campus. I kind of feel like I can just exist in that space and know that, I'm probably not going to have to deal with people like misgendering me and stuff like that. And that's been really important. But
thank you all. Arlene speaking. Thank you all so much for sharing. I want to ask one final question. So as we look forward to the future of the center and the queer community at UCLA, what is one hope that you have that you'd like to share?
That's a big question, but I think, my time there, especially getting to meet Andy and everyone there at the center, there is so much passion and so much hope and so much intention in everything that the CRC does at UCLA. And my hope is that continues, that level of passion, and I'm most certain that it will, in all the people that are touched by the CRC and how they can go on into the various professions as graduates of UCLA and make the difference, right? Because this is a generation that we're going to start seeing a lot of these changes. And so all these people that are graduating that have benefited from the CRC, I already know that there's going to be phenomenal changes. And so I just hope that this continues, not just for this generation, but for generations to come.
Yeah, echoing, building off of that, I'm personally really inspired and amazed by just the amount of changes that a lot of you student leaders have continued pushing forward on and building upon the success of people that came before us, like Dr. Albin, who basically created the center, and Dr. Rayleigh Saporin. So really amazed and really hope that we continually push for a more inclusive CRC and environment at UCLA. So that one day, hopefully we won't have to have like these tough conversations anymore. Yeah.
Sohini speaking. Yeah, I just want to echo that. I'm going to see if I can phrase this properly, but I think as we move towards even more acceptance and celebration of our identities and community, I'd love to see, the center and our space become a place less that people need to access and more that just like want to access, if that makes sense. And it can be a place where people can opt in or opt out, because we've created a culture throughout all of UCLA where we are being celebrated and we're safe and we're welcome. And so I'm looking forward to that, because I would love to see what that looks like. And I'd love to be part of it in some way or another. And I think, I don't know, 25 years from now, if we do like a 50-year celebration or something, it'll be fun to look back and see how far we've come. So that's my hope for the center.
I'll kind of like say a little bit something to Jack speaking, sorry. But yeah, I mean, I really love I think the space is so beautiful with so many students all the time and everyone gathered here today. And I really love seeing like all the love that's being shared in like the chat section, where it's like, oh, like I think Alice here, Kaya is here, and a lot of other alumni. Is Ronnie still here? I don't think so. But yeah, just I think it would be so amazing to find different ways to keep it going and keep folks connected, because I know that a lot of us still have a lot of love, as we've seen today, like for the center and for the community that we've built. And I'm wondering, like, how do we kind of bring that space forward and bring that space beyond, so that we continue having community.
Just kind of, I had a really similar thought to Sohini, just kind of wanted to echo that. But Megan, our former assistant director, used to always say that she wanted to kind of make sure that UCLA was a place where queer and trans students could feel accepted everywhere on campus. And so we didn't feel like we had to go to the center if we wanted support. So that is something that I am looking forward to as well.
Amazing, wonderful, beautiful. Thank you all so much. I'd love to show some appreciation in the chat for our panelists today, for taking some time out of their days to come and speak with us about their experiences as UCLA students and alumni. Thank you all.
Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you, everyone, and all the past and current staff and volunteers for making such a very special place for all of us.